Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast series on freedom from violence. And in our previous episodes, we have discussed about the LGBTQ community violence that is considered in our country. We have the gender-based violence in the prisons itself. And today, we are going to examine two deeply interconnected issues: women's autonomy and the body integrity that women have. So these might seem two separate topics, but they're connected by a single thread, that is, the control over women's body. So what happens when a woman's body's right is decided by somebody else who has the right to use it and who has the right to regulate it? And what does the law really say about it? So today we are discussing about this topic, this complex legal issue in this podcast. And we are honored to have amongst us Dr. Kaushik Bagchi, sir, who is the assistant professor at National University of Study and Research in Law, Ranchi. Sir has over a decade of experience in sexual and reproductive health rights and has been working for gender-based violence and in supporting women for over a decade now. We are pleased to have you amongst us, sir, today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So to begin with this entire discussion, I shall pose a very foundational question in front of you. Like, what do we really mean when we talk about the reproductive autonomy in our daily parlance? What does it really mean in the general sense that we say? Because there are people who do not understand the meaning of it. And how do we really, describe this one right as a constitutional right? Because the Constitution never mentioned it explicitly, but we do derive it as a right. So can you explain us that what does this entire connection and intersection of law is? Over to you, sir.
So when we look into this particular topic, that is female reproductive autonomy, specifically speaking, when we for coming to the constitution, first of all, we have to have a glance at the societal pattern as well as the religious context which are lying behind this particular phenomena. So when we look into the Hindu mythological texts or the Islamic Quran or the Bible, everyone sets out a goal that we should have a family, right? So unless and until we have a family or we reproduce, the birth itself, our birth itself specifically takes into consideration that we should be giving rebirth to someone else so that the society can go along. So with this concept, the religious philosophy basically takes care of this particular part. Now, one thing is that when we are talking about this particular aspect, we have to also take into consideration the female's will. So there is again a dispute or a conflict of interests between the concept of female reproductive autonomy as well as the concept of having a family. So when we take into consideration the Article 21 of the Article 21 of the Constitution itself, not only the Article 21 of the Constitution, but there is an article in the UDHR also, that is Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which also states that each and every living being should have the right to have a family. So taking this particular term, right to have a family, and incorporating it under Article 21, and then coming to the female reproductive autonomy, which states that the female will have a choice to or a specific decision making power while giving birth to a child. So don't you think that there is a conflict of interest once we are talking about under Article 21, the specific aspect of right to have a family, and on the other hand, we are the basic ingredient or one of the basic counterpart for the purpose of having a family is the female counterpart. So what we are doing is that we are giving her a female reproductive autonomy where she had got the choice of choosing when to give birth, why to give birth. These all questions are to be taken care of under Article 21 by the female herself. So our constitution under Article 21 has very nicely incorporated both these concepts by virtue of taking into consideration the aspect of case laws. So how do we interpret, how do we balance between these two rights? Now, for that particular purpose, there are several judicial decisions which have come across and which have, I think everyone, if you can search it on Google, Sanchita case is there. So we find out that there are several case laws on this particular topic where the Supreme Court as well as the High Courts have tried to balance these two rights and put forward that no, even though there is a right to have a family, but there must be also a female reproductive autonomy where she must be given the chance to decide whether to give birth to a child or not to give birth to a child. And for the purpose of protecting this particular aspect, there are two more ancillary laws which we can see. One is the MTP Act, that is again moving in a positive direction towards the aspect of giving female reproductive autonomy, that is Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. And the another aspect which basically runs a bit negative to this particular aspect is the PCPNDT Act, that is the Prenatal and Pre-Diagnostic Technologies Act. So basically, all these laws are correlated together in order to give a balancing situation to the aspect of female reproductive autonomy. So when we look into this whole periphery or this whole uh, texture of female reproductive autonomy, we cannot base it upon one single enactment or one single legislation. Even when we carry forward this particular discussion, we will find out that the surrogacy law or the ART Act, these laws are also incorporated within this particular matrix. Okay. So obviously we'll discuss about all those things in the latter stage. Not only this, at present we have this female reproductive autonomy can be also used in another sense. For example, the concept of designer babies have come across. So I want to give birth to a child. Okay, that is my reproductive autonomy. I am ready to use it, but I am ready to use it according to my own wish. The birth which I give to a child, that child will be according to my own wish. So there again, we are trying to control the chromosomal aspects of that particular child and cater, bring in a society children who will be more intelligent, more smart, etc., etc. But obviously, again, there will be certain discomfort to the society if we give access to such kind of aspects in the legal terminology, because obviously they will disbalance the societal equation as such altogether. So, in a gist, we can say that female reproductive autonomy basically dwells with the topic of the right of a female to give birth to a child. So this particular terminology, to give birth to a child, must be connoted in both positive and negative sense. In negative sense, she does not want to give birth to a child, or she wants to give birth to a child according to her own wish. So both the things must be taken into consideration.
Yes, sir. So, in line with what you were discussing about the surrogacy factor, so you must be aware, and all our listeners must be aware, that India was once known as the surrogacy hub of this entire world. And surrogacy used to be taking place in a very commercial sense in Indian context. But there have been amendments in our legislations, and now altruistic surrogacy is allowed in India. By that, we mean surrogacy where commercial purpose is not the main motive behind that surrogacy. So, but then, my entire question is based upon the fact that in India, women have a very feeble voice in the family. By that, I mean their voices are suppressed. So, in the ground reality, and when we talk about the practical sense of this, how realistic is the implementation of this? Can women still be coerced into becoming a surrogate for someone else in the family, maybe, if there's a situation arising like that? So, isn't this altruistic surrogacy that we talk about, it can take a shape of some unpaid reproductive labor that is hidden in the family, where women do have a right, but they're not able to exercise it. And something that you can tell us about the ground realities, because you are somebody who has been into this legal aid context for a very long time. So if you can tell us about that.
So when we look into this whole concept of surrogacy, we have to first take into consideration that previously these cases of surrogacy were totally unknown to the population of India, though India became a hub for surrogacy. So it was only the baby Munji's case which brought this particular concept of surrogacy in the limelight. And soon after it, the 228th Law Commission report specifically made recommendations for the purpose of continuing, not, you'll be astonished to hear, not the altruistic surrogacy, but framed guidelines for the purpose of commercial surrogacy. Now, when we look into this particular whole aspect of 228th Law Commission report, it tried to control the aspect of commercial surrogacy with a basic motive that obviously surrogacy fetches revenue not only to the helpless female persons who want to become surrogate mothers, but also earns a revenue for the country. Because at that time, you will find out that 3 to 4% of the GDP was controlled or was accessed by the aspect of India becoming the surrogacy hub, because it was cheaper over here. Okay, not only the procedure of surrogacy was cheaper, but also getting surrogate mothers were cheaper in India. So taking all these scenarios into consideration, it became very enthusiastic for the legislators to develop a rules and guidelines for the surrogate mothers protecting their rights. So primarily there used to have been under this particular guidelines contract for surrogacy, and depending upon that particular contract only they would have been paid the specific remuneration if the parents were not ready to take that particular child with them. In such circumstance, the liability was affixed, that who will take care of that particular child. Not only this, the concept which was very much dwelling at that moment was that if foreign persons come, who will be given the citizenship of such kind of children, that was also ascertained by these guidelines. So everything was set out. But ultimately, when we look into the 2016 enactment, it speaks totally in a different manner, totally opposite what was stated in the guideline. And here we find out that the concept of altruistic surrogacy has been given the most relevance under the what is defined under that particular provision is that near relatives, so who are coming within the periphery of near relatives, that is also a big question, who can be interpreted within the laws for the purpose of coming within the definition of near relatives for the purpose of surrogacy. Don't you think that so many IVF centers, though IVF centers are working in different manner, but there are various kind of surrogacy clinics opened up, fertility clinics opened up. Are they not doing surrogacy under the present context? So that's my question. If you move on to the society, if you do an empirical study, you'll find out that there are several surrogacies going on, and at present the scenario is more worsen as compared to the earlier, because at present the females can never go to the court and claim for any kind of compensation because the law does not recognize it itself. So the contract itself will be void ab initio, right? So a situation has been created where the concept of surrogacy is there, though it's hidden, but law does not recognize that particular. Now, not only that, we have also opened up ART clinics. ART Act has also come in 2016. Okay. Now, what is the basic thing which we have again to focus is while we were focusing on Article 21 and we were talking about right to have family. So, in such circumstance, we have also recognized to a certain extent the concept of homosexual marriages, right? Same-sex marriages we have recognized to a little bit. We have also recognized the relationships of LGBTQ, and we have also given all of them the right to have family under Article 21 of the Constitution itself. So how they will have a family even if you don't give them the aspect of surrogacy or ART? Cater their requirements by passing out the specific progressive legislations, and on the other hand, the other kind of the surrogacy law or the ART Act puts out a blanket ban upon the concept of commercial surrogacy. So don't you think that both these things act conversely against each other? So that is also a question which we must keep in our mind.
Yes, sir. Sir, also on the same lines, we discussed enough about the rights of women in the positive sense. But remember, you just mentioned in the beginning of this entire session that we need to consider the positive and the negative right both. So,
Right.
just to bring everyone on the same path, I would talk about the flip side, which is that while some women are actually fighting to access these reproductive technologies, but we need to understand that there are also women who are fighting to the right of not reproducing. So, whatever the reason might be behind that. So, they have faced coerced sterilizations, they have family planning programs that are actually coerced upon them. So, and they are also given denial of abortion services. So, to consider this, that this is an existing problem, but how do we really reconcile laws into a way that these women who are somehow kept on the periphery are brought into the main picture, and they're also their problems are also dealt with? And how does reality really work in this case? That the law, despite being at place, is not able to help them out. What is the ground reality of such women?
Now, when we look into this whole scenario of reproductive dynamics, we have to take into consideration the population status. We are thinking about these laws under the present circumstance, because when we look into the MTP Act or the PCPNDT Act, the basic objective behind these enactments were to control the population in a manner so that the female population can increase, because there are several kinds of female feticides going on within India. It's still going on. Okay, though the people have taken a different course of action for the purpose of going through female feticides. Okay, but basically we find out this strategies or these legal reforms are basically motivated with the purpose of population control. But there are countries where you will find out people are invited to come here and marry one of our girls from here. Okay, so that you can, again, that is also a basic motive where population can be controlled. So that means they have less population, they want more population. We have more population, we want less population. So that depends upon the dynamics as well as the geopolitics altogether, that which kind of laws we want to build. So that is a different scenario where the right, because we have not only this, I talked about designer babies, right? So there is also the concept of stem cell protection. Even without going through any kind of now science has developed to such an extent that people have even started thinking about the aspect of cloning, though it's not at all allowed all across the universe. But obviously, people are fighting for it. Okay, we are also thinking about the dead man, bringing them back to life. Okay, and again enhancing the population in such manner. So obviously there are several equations which we have to take into consideration. What you are speaking specifically, if we come to India, obviously the women are in a position where their such kind of rights are exploited, right? So even not only this exploitation, uh, obviously has again given uh, the rise of certain another kind of things which the Indian laws have just recently started to analyze and bring within the legal framework. For example, the aspect of marital rape. Previously, there was no concept of marital rape, right? But we have brought in that particular concept also within the ambit of the legal framework. We have started recognizing this particular concept. So obviously, the laws are progressing. The society is also progressing. Science is also progressing. And as a result, there must be laws must be of such a nature which should try to correlate and balance all these societal needs. Okay. So with this particular aspect, I would like to end up this question.
Thank you, sir. So also on the same lines, as we're talking about the legal reforms that we need, but apart from legal reforms, we do have a lot of legislation already in place. But to the people who are actually listening to this, and to people who will be really hearing this afterwards, one thing that you would want to suggest to people, or maybe to the young women who are hearing this, who are actually facing something like this, what is the legal remedy that they hold? Because we do know about the problems, we have identified the problems, but this is where we lag, that we are not aware of the remedy. So if you could tell us about the remedies that they hold, the rights that they have in those legislations, and how do we
Obviously,
approach them?
now I said about that. Obviously, reproductive autonomy should be there. That's why we have got the concept. If she is married or he is married, we have got the concept of marital rape, right? So obviously, they can bring a matter of marital rape if the exploitation through illegal surrogacy happens to a female. So obviously that will be a matter which can be taken into consideration under the not under the surrogacy laws, but obviously according to the fraudulent contract which has been made performed upon her. Okay, so that can be initiated through any suit for contracts. Okay, then we have the MTP Act, PCPNDT Act, which I talked about. They have framed and they have specifically provided the penal provisions over there, that if someone is going to find out the sex of the unborn child, in such circumstance, what could be the penalties upon that particular person, that particular medical institution which is going to perform that particular uh, use that particular technology for finding that particular sex of that child. Even the doctor who will be performing such particular act will be also penalized under the MPCP and DT Act. Now, one of the major loopholes when we look into the whole concept of this female reproductive autonomy, the MTP Act has given specific provisions that when this pregnancy can be removed. So I think there are several medicines in the market at present which require the sanction of one of the RMOs, okay, registered medical practitioner, uh, for the purpose of access to that particular kind of medicines. I think in TV and everywhere in social media, you have got those advertised unwanted 21, etc., etc. These kind of medicines are there. Then if the period, I think the courts have now also uh, decreased the period, right? Previously it was how many months? It was, I think, four up to 28 weeks, and now it has been reduced up to 20 weeks, something like that, because taking into consideration the aspect of rape victims, if they don't want to give birth to a child, or a mentally ill person who does not want to give birth to a child, in such circumstance the period can be again enhanced up to 28 weeks. So after 28 weeks, it becomes very dangerous to abort a child, even if the to the mother as well as to the child. So after 28 weeks, if such kind of pregnancy is found out, I think they have to give birth to that particular child. So obviously there are laws, legislations everywhere.
I would also want to bring a discussion towards this one juncture, that we do have laws in the place, but would you also agree to me upon this, that we have the laws in place, but there are women, and there's one section of women that always gets ignored. That is the people who do not have enough resources. They can be people from a different community, maybe women who are not economically well off. That there is a community or a segment of women who are aloof of these legislations and laws, especially the women who are not well off economically, or maybe do not have enough resources in general. So, what about these women whose realities are actually not brought into the picture in the mainstream? So, if you can, spread light upon this one thing, that how are these women are actually having problems, and their problems are not being dealt, so that we have a bigger platform to discuss it upon.
Now, when we look into this particular problem, we have to again take into consideration the societal aspect. Now, our society is very conservative in nature, specifically in India. Okay, it's being dominated by religion everywhere, right? So, do we have the education at the school level regarding this? In ninth and 10th, we have, right? But not that also in a very closed manner, right? So, teachers will still state you that in ninth and 10th also that you go through this particular biology chapter yourself, okay, or just mug up this particular portion and come for the examinations. So the information itself is not catered to them, even if we are, it has nothing to do with economics. It has nothing to do with the aspect of the plight of the Adivasi or the Dalit women whom we are talking about. Specifically speaking about these kinds of topics, it's itself a stigma in the society at present. So first of all, we have to remove this particular stigma from the society. Though you are literate, though you are illiterate, okay, on whatever footage of education you are, most of us are totally unaware about all those aspects which may occur due to such kind of aspects. So in such circumstance, the first thing is that we have to get ourselves enlightened and know about what is what and how what things can give birth or what things cannot give birth. All those things we have to take care of. So there must be literacy campaign regarding this particular aspect from the school level itself. If we have such kind of and as because we have always put this particular topic in a closed shell, closed uh, under the curtains, don't speak about these aspects, etc., etc. So what happens is that people get more interested to know about this. So they use the other aids for the purpose of getting the knowledge, which is not the correct source of information. And as a result of which, they face problems. They may be indulged in another criminal activities, etc. They may be addicted to such kind of aspects which they from where they try to learn that those aspects. So obviously these things we have to take care of. The society must transform it into, we should be speaking about all these things also openly, so that the from the childhood itself. That's why I think again, under present circumstances, we have started talking about the good touch and bad touch in the schools in 2 3 kg prep, etc., etc. So that's one of the motive intention, how to literate the society. Okay. So when we speak about the Dalit women, etc., so obviously these kinds of marital rape, no one is going to complain, because they are totally unaware about what is marital rape. They think that their husbands have a right to use their body, and it is their duty to give their body whenever it's demanded by the husband. So obviously there is least literacy on these particular aspects. So only literacy can increase, not only educational literacy, but these kinds of social literacies can increase. So obviously, your legal aid center must work upon it, find out various kinds of activities by virtue of which we can literate these kind of persons regarding their reproductive rights, not only female but also male. Okay.
Sir, I have few follow-up questions on whatever we discussed till now. We talked about Article 21 being
Right.
enforced. We talked about right to life, right to equality, everything. But don't you think that the surrogacy rules or the laws in itself is creating a bifurcation or kind of discrimination among a group of women? Because as we all know, surrogacy is quite an expensive treatment. Uh, if we talk about IVF, why is
Hmm.
not as cheap as abortion? If we talk about voluntary abortion and IVF, then IVF should have been at par with the whatever the charges are for the treatment. So don't you think that it is creating a discrimination in it's among a group of people? Number one. Number two, the government is well aware about the how the things are done. The executive, the judiciary, the legislature, all three pillars are well aware. If they are aware, then why don't they make come up with some laws or rules which can regularize the whole process?
Now, answering your first question, obviously IVF is a more advanced and scientific technique as compared to that of abortion. Okay. So obviously it will be more expensive as compared to that of abortion. This is the first thing. And when we are talking about reducing or giving subsidies for such kind of things, so in such circumstance, we have to again uh, get aware that we are not at all a developed nation yet, right? So if you go through the health legislations in most of the developed nations, you will find out in these developed nations, the whole medical aspect is taken care of the government itself, right? So even if you are a minister, you have to go to the government hospital. Even if you are an industrialist, you have to go to the government hospital. Even if you are a slum dweller, you have to go to the government. And most of the things are insured. So if we also bring out such kind of laws, obviously, if the minister goes to the same hospital where the slum dweller goes, obviously there will be certain benefits, certain things accruing, which will be equally, the term equality, which we specifically state, will be obviously used in the sense of equality, right? So that is not done yet in India. Okay, and that's why most of the provisions related to health have been provided in the DPSP yet, not in the fundamental rights, though we try to bring in right to health through various case laws, incorporating it within the ambit of Article 21. But practically speaking, right to health is not so easy to access in India yet.
Right.
Okay, so that aspect we have to take care of.
There was a 2021 report of NHRC and NCW. It was a collaborative report in which a major concern was about surrogacy. As per the report, for doing surrogacy, the crime rate of human trafficking has very rapidly increased. Women are trafficked from rural areas to urban areas just for the sake of surrogacy. So, what would be the solution in the future generation, or what would be the
Legalizing
future
it,
outcome?
legalizing it, the thing which was recommended in the 228 Law Commission report.
Mhm.
Okay, if you are legalizing it, obviously then these illegal traffickings will be stopped, and the women who are being exploited in such manner, at least they will, कुछ नहीं मिल रहा है उसके जगह कुछ तो मिलेगा. There will be a specific contract for initiating
Sir,
that particular.
again, the thing is, we all are aware how things work on the ground level. We have been doing legal aid from last 3 to 4. You have been doing it with me for last 4 years, so you know what the ground reality is, how much
Right.
people are aware about their rights, and how people are dealt with those problems. So don't you think that legalizing it would lead to another major problem?
The problem is still continuing. Na? What we are finding is that surrogacy has not stopped. If you go through any of the big hospitals across India, even in sub towns, small towns, you will find out that there is a fertility clinic. If you go and ask there, can you provide the services of surrogacy? They will discreetly say, okay, sir, we'll charge you this much amount for this, and we will bring someone from such and such place. So everything is going under the curtains. So why not to open the curtain and see the drama? At least there will be legal monitors, there will be regulators, right? So everything will be done under the specific regulations, right? The thing which was recommended under the 228 Law Commission report, that the female should be given adequate compensation, that will be also fixed. You make that compensation high, okay? That will be dependent upon contract, okay? So obviously that, but there is only one fear, that if most females indulge in such kind of activities, then what will happen to the society? For that particular purpose, also the these guidelines are given, that how many times a female can become a surrogate mother. Okay, that is also provided, not more than that. Okay. So commercial surrogacy also, the 228 Law Commission report recommends that a female can become a surrogate mother only thrice in her lifetime.
Well, but again, don't you think that it would deteriorate the condition of women or the state of women we are having right now? We're in the 21st century, but again, we are discussing this gender discrimination, and the problem is
You
still the
are
same.
speaking about gender discrimination, जिसके पेट में खाना नहीं है, who is not getting food, or does not have money to feed her family members. In such circumstance, what will be good for her? Even if there are laws, specific laws, by virtue of which the surrogacy can be controlled through legal regulation, where she'll be also getting benefit legally, not illegally. Okay. And the liability will be also accrued upon the surrogate parents who want that particular child, and the institution who are performing such kind of activity. In such circumstance, obviously everything will be controlled. No? I don't know. That is my opinion, personal opinion. My opinions are in line with the 228 Law Commission report, though the legislatures have framed it differently. Okay. So I think obviously that, because that was major source of income, right? At one point of time.
Thank you so much, sir, for this deeply insightful conversation that we had together. And you've helped us understand the law as well as the legal, legislations, as well as the ground realities that exist in our country and even beyond. So thank you so much. And for that, we would like to conclude this entire podcast series of ours with the fact that women's rights have actually been sidelined for a very long time now. And with this, the bodily autonomy is where the right begins, with our body. And with that, I would just want to say that everyone who's listening to it needs to be aware about their rights and all the rights that the Constitution provides to them. And with this thought, we have concluded this entire podcast, that the rights are actually made to reach the people who are at the worst end of it. And with that, I just concluded. Thank you, everyone.